my live teaching learning session of Principles of Macroeconomics-II BECC 134. Today's topic is foreign exchange rate. This is very important topic. In this topic, you will study about what is foreign exchange rate, how foreign exchange rate is determined, and what type of foreign exchange rate exists in our economy, and what are the merits and demerits of different types of foreign exchange rate. Now let us start from this topic. First is meaning of foreign exchange rate. What is foreign exchange? Foreign exchange is the mechanism. Foreign exchange is a system by which the currency of one country gets converted into the currency of another country. In simple words, we can say that foreign exchange rate is that rate at which we can convert one country's currency into another country's currency. The conversion of currency is done by the banks who deal in foreign exchange. These banks maintain stocks of one currencies in the form of balances with banks. So foreign exchange is that rate at which we can convert one country's currency into another country's currency. For example, in India, here currency is exist in rupees, and in USA, dollar is the main currency of that country. If we want to convert India's currency into USA currency, then we must have to pay the rate at which we can convert rupees into dollar or dollar into rupees. For example, in India at present, dollar value is $1 is equivalent to 70 rupees of Indian currency. If we want to buy $1, then we have to pay 70 rupees in terms of Indian currency. It means $1 value is 70 rupees of India's currency. So this is called exchange rate, at which we can convert one country's currency into another country's currency. In each and every country, different types of currencies is circulating in their particular countries. For example, in Japan, yen currency is existing, in USA, dollar, in Australia, Australian dollar. USA dollar is standardized currency, which is accepted by all. No one country can refuse the currency of USA dollar because America currency is super powerful and standardized currency which has some standard value. That's why each and every country accepted the value of dollar. But Indian currency is circulating or existing only in India, not in any other countries. If we want to buy any goods and services from Indian currency, we can't buy. First of all, we have to convert India's currency into another country's currency, then we can buy goods and services and satisfy our needs or wants. It means each and every country has different currencies which existing in their particular country, and if we want to do international trade with rest of the world, then we must have to pay their country's currency. If we are doing trade with China, then we must have to pay their currency for the payment of imports. So foreign exchange is that rate It's a mechanism, it's a system by which the currency of one country gets converted into the currency of another country. Next is this is exchange rate example. In 1947, 1 rupee was equivalent to $1. It means both value is at par. There is no difference between rupee and dollar. But in 2018, $1 value is equivalent to 70 rupees. It means if I want to buy or purchase $1, if we want to get $1, then we must have to pay 70 rupees in terms of Indian currency. So as well as time passes, India's currency value is depreciating or decreasing, and the dollar value is increasing. So exchange rate is that rate at which one country's currency can be traded or converted for another country's currency. This is called exchange rate. And this is the example of exchange rate. Next is exchange rate formula. How we can calculate or how we can estimate exchange rate. Its formula is exchange rate is equals to money in after exchange divided by money before exchange. So if we want to estimate exchange rate, then we must have to divide money in after exchange and money before exchange. Then we can get exchange rate. This is the formula of exchange rate. Next is meaning of foreign exchange. In other words, we can also define this foreign exchange. In simple words or ordinarily, the term foreign exchange connotes two things. One is foreign currency and second is exchange rate. Foreign exchange generally refers to foreign currency. For example, currency of another country. Foreign exchange means the currency of another country or foreign currency. For example, pound sterling, dollar, franc, ruble constitute foreign currency. Or foreign exchange so far as India is concerned. By rate of exchange is mean that it is the rate at which one unit of currency of a country can be exchanged or can be converted for the currency of another country. That is called foreign exchange rate. Foreign currency is the different countries' currency. As I have told you that in different countries, different types of currency is prevailing. Because each and every country, people can buy goods and services or can sell goods and services with the help of money. At present, money is the medium of exchange. There is no system of barter or doing trade with goods and services existing in the economy. Each and every country is doing trade with money. But the currency is different in different countries. And the rate at which we can convert one country's currency into another country's currency is called exchange rate. Now next is what are the functions of foreign exchange market? Foreign exchange market is a place where buyers of foreign currency and sellers of foreign currency meet together and they can sell or buy foreign currencies. Same as market is a system. Market is a place where buyers and sellers meet together. Same as you have studied about perfect competition market, monopoly market, monopolistic competition market, oligopoly market in microeconomics 2. Same as foreign exchange market is also a market. It's a place where buyers and sellers meet together. But here the buyers and sellers of not goods and services. Here buyers and sellers deals with foreign currency. So where foreign currencies are traded or foreign currencies are sale or purchase by consumers and producers meet together and do this trade. That type of market is called foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange market play very important role at present. It has three important functions. One is transfer function, second is credit function, and third is hedging function. First function is transfer function. Here, foreign exchange play very important role as a medium of transaction. Foreign exchange market play transfer function means we can transfer one country's currency to another country's currency. We can convert it and we can transfer India's currency into USA and USA currency into India with the help of foreign exchange market. Second function is credit function. Credit means if you want to take borrowings or you want to take loan in terms of foreign currency, foreign exchange market give opportunity or give facility to take borrowings from that market. If any country want to borrow foreign currencies, then they can contact to foreign exchange market and they can take that foreign currency from foreign exchange market. It means foreign exchange market also facilitate credit or it gives credit facility to the borrowers. And the lenders who want to lend their foreign currency, foreign exchange market, take their money from those lenders and give loans to the borrowers. Third function is hedging function. Hedging means risk. The risk involved in doing the trade of international currencies is also engaged in this business or in this market. But foreign exchange market take over all the risk which involve while doing the trade of foreign currencies. So foreign exchange market take all the risk. It means this type of when a foreign exchange market take all the risk or bear all the risk involved in the foreign exchange currencies, that is called hedging function. Hedging means to take over all the risk which involved while doing international currencies trade. So these three functions are very important of foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange market play very important role to perform these three functions. One is transfer function, second is credit function, and third is hedging function. Hedging means to take over all the risk which involve while doing trade with foreign currencies. So this is the meaning of foreign exchange and the functions of foreign exchange market. Next is system of foreign exchange rate. There are two types of system of exchange rate. Exchange rate basically of two types. One is fixed exchange rate and another is floating or flexible exchange rate. Fixed exchange rate is that rate of exchange which is fixed by the government. It has two variants. One is gold standard system of exchange rate. According to this, each country was to define value of its currency in terms of gold. For example, if UK $1 is equals to or 1 pound, UK 1 pound is equals to 4 gram of gold and US dollar is equals to 2 gram of gold. So 1 UK pound is equals to 2 US dollar. It means under this fixed exchange rate system, each and every country had to convert it their own country's currency in terms of gold, because at that time gold was standardized currency which was fixed by USA during Bretton Woods system. So there are two types of exchange rate system. One is fixed exchange rate system which is fixed by the government. Under this fixed exchange rate system, exchange rate remains always fixed. There is no change in exchange rate is possible during fixed exchange rate system. But another exchange rate system is flexible or floating. By clear from its name, it's a flexible. It means it can be changed or it is determined by the forces of demand and supply of foreign currency. So flexible exchange rate system at present is existing, and that flexible exchange rate is too much relevant at present because it is determined by the forces of demand and supply curve. As we know that price is determined where demand curve and supply curve intersect each other. Same as equilibrium exchange rate or flexible exchange rate is also determined where the demand for dollar curve or demand for foreign currency curve, which is always downward sloping curve, and supply of foreign currency curve, which is always upward sloping curve, where both curve intersect each other. Flexible or floating exchange rate is determined on that point. So these are two exchange rate system. We will discuss about these two exchange rate system in detail with the study of their merits, demerits, and how these exchange rate system is determined. So first exchange rate system is fixed exchange rate system, which is fixed by the government. And it has two variants. One is gold standard system of exchange rate, and we can give the example of this. For example, I have told you that if UK 1 pound is equals to 4 gram of gold and US dollar is equals to 2 gram of gold, so 1 UK pound is equals to, because 4 is divided by 2 is equals to 2, so 2 US dollar. Now, how for fixed exchange rate system was determined? Who determined this fixed exchange rate system and what are the history behind this system? Bretton Woods system, which was exist in the economy or in the world economy during 1946 to 1971 time period. In this system, British pound, German mark, and French francs at par value all these countries at par value currencies is exist in US dollar, and US dollar was converted in terms of gold that was pegged at $35 ounce. That is called Bretton Woods system or fixed exchange rate system. In this system, exchange rate was fixed by US economy or all the country's currency value taken by US dollar, and US dollar further converted in terms of gold, which was a packed system. For example, uh, wine, the person who take drink alcoholic drink, they always they always measure the quantity of their drink in peg system. For example, if they take one peg, they ask one peg. One peg is the limit of a standardized or standard limit of the alcoholic drink. Peg is the system, or peg is a limited quantity which is fixed by the drinkers. Same as US dollar. When US dollar was converted into gold, that was also pegged. Pegged means a limit fixed by the US economy. For example, here the limit is $35 ounce per ounce. So if you have paid British pound or German mark or French francs, at par value goes to US dollar, that was firstly converted into US dollar. Then US dollar was pegged in terms of gold, and that gold was called standardized currency, from which you can do trade or international trade, and that system is called fixed exchange rate system, which is fixed by the government. Once it was fixed, you can't change. Plus 1, minus 1 variation can be possible, but you can't go beyond that change. This is called Bretton Woods system, which was existed in the economy during the period of 1946 to 1971. Next is, what is the gold standard, and what are the pros and cons of, or merits and demerits of this gold standard system? If you want to add more money, you must add more gold. It means in earlier time period, fixed exchange rate was existed, and if you want to do trade with rest of the world, then first of all you must have to convert your country's currency in terms of gold. After that, you can buy goods and services from rest of the world. So that system was called gold standard system or fixed exchange rate system. It has so many benefits and so many demerits also. Long term price stability exists during fixed exchange rate system because exchange rate is fixed. It can't change. It's clear by its name, it's a fixed. Then there cannot be any possibility of changing price level. So price will also remain stable or constant. And it is very difficult to for the government to inflate or to increase the price level. So price stability can be existed only in fixed exchange rate system, not in flexible exchange rate system. And fixed international exchange rate between trading nations reduces uncertainty. There is no uncertainty, no speculation, no hoarding. There is no any type of speculation exist at the time of fixed exchange rate system because exchange rate was fixed. you have no incentive to do trade, more trade, or speculate with other countries. So, no speculation is possible in fixed exchange rate system, no risk involved in fixed exchange rate system, no uncertainty exists during fixed exchange rate system. So these are the merits of fixed exchange rate system or gold standard system. And what are the cons of this? Cons means demerits, disadvantages. A disadvantage for countries that do not produce gold, because gold is not available in each and every country unlimited quantity. Gold is also a fossil fuel, and it is a nature gift, or it is given by God. It's not you can't produce gold. So no one country has too much gold from which they can do trade. So gold standard first demerit is that the countries who don't produce gold, who don't have too much gold, how they can do trade with other nations? Because some countries have too much gold, but other nations have no gold. When the countries who don't have gold, how they can buy goods and services from the other countries who have too much gold? So this was the first disadvantage or very big disadvantage of this gold standard system. And it may limit economic growth. It has also another demerit, that is, it may limit economic growth. Economic growth will be limited with the using of this gold standard system. Economics to say it can prolong economic recession. If any country uses this system for the long time period, then economy will go to the recession time period. And recession or depression is the bad situations for the economy. If economy run in a boom situation, that is good for the economy, but recession or depression, which are the stages of business cycle which exist during time to time, that system or that stages are very dangerous for the economy. So economists say it can prolong economic recession, and it limits how central bank can respond to economic crisis. While the system of gold standard, central bank, how central bank can manage the economic crisis time period, it does not explain. So gold standard is a system in which a currency is backed by gold reserves. Each unit of currency is worth a specific weight in gold. That was the system which was exist during 1946 to 1971, but at present it does not exist. It was existed only during the period of 46 to 71, but you must have to know about this. So what was the fixed exchange rate system? And this is very important exchange rate system, because under this system the rate of exchange was fixed by the government, which is fixed in terms of gold. Each and every country has to fix their currencies in terms of gold while doing international trade. So this is the system of fixed exchange rate and gold standard. Next is floating exchange rate regimes or floating or flexible exchange rate system. Floating or flexible exchange rate system is a system in which foreign exchange rate is fixed by demand and supply of the foreign currencies. In a floating exchange rate system, the value of currency is affected by everyday market for supply and demand. Its system is also known as price mechanism system, and price mechanism system is existed in capitalist economies. Capitalist economies are those economies in which all the activities or all the economic activities are run by private entrepreneurs, not by the government. Government role is very limited. Government do not intervene in any economic activity. Then economy can move smoothly only with the help of the forces of demand and supply curve. So floating exchange rate system, under this system, the exchange rate is fixed by demand and supply. And as you know that demand can change at any time, supply can change at any time, and both are flexible, both are not fixed, and both are related with period of time, not point of time. So therefore, trade and capital flows play a very big role in determining the currency's value. There are two different types of floating exchange rate. One is dirty float and other is clean float. And this depends on whether or not there is government intervention. If there is a government intervention, then there will be a clean float system will exist. And if there is no government intervention, then dirty float system will exist. The exchange rate system can be stabilized through both monetary and fiscal policy. Monetary policy is made by central bank or Reserve Bank of India or Federal Reserve in US and other central bank which existed in each and every other country. And fiscal policy is that policy which is made by government. Under this fiscal policy, public revenue, public expenditure, public debt, and budget, these are the main important tools of fiscal policy which included in fiscal policy system. Through monetary policy, when there is an excess in money supply, the government would purchase domestic assets to weaken the currency and push the interest rate down. Because when there is an excess supply of money, then you know that rate of interest falls. So monetary policy, if we use monetary policy when there is an excess in money supply, the government would purchase domestic asset to weaken the currency and push the interest rate down. And during this fiscal policy system, fiscal expansion causes an appreciation of the currency that forces the government to purchase foreign asset. This will increase the money supply, preventing the currency appreciation. So both policies can stabilize the exchange rate. With the help of this system, either government would purchase domestic asset when we are following monetary policy to weaken the currency and push the interest rate down, and fiscal expansion causes an appreciation of the currency. What is appreciation of currency? If the currency value increases, that is called, in terms of another country's currency, that is called appreciation. And if our country's currency value is decreasing in terms of another country's currency, that is called depreciation. So decreasing the value of our country in terms of another country's currency is called depreciation. And if we increase the value of our country's currency in terms of another country's currency, that is called appreciation. And if fiscal policy is expansionary fiscal policy means when government's expenditures are more than taxation, or if government reduces taxes and government spending more money on development or non-development expenditures, then it, it is called fiscal expansionary policy, and it will cause appreciation of the currency that forces the government to purchase foreign assets. And if government purchases foreign assets, it will increase the money supply, preventing the currency appreciation. So, fiscal policy and monetary policy can stabilize the exchange rate by using their tools. Next is how flexible exchange rate is determined. Flexible exchange rate is determined with the help of demand and supply curve or forces of demand and supply curve. As you know that demand curve is always downward sloping curve. Simple demand curve which is related with price shows inverse relationship between price and demand. Here this demand curve is the demand for pounds or demand for dollars. You can take any country's currency demand curve. And demand curve is downward sloping because it is showing inverse relationship between foreign countries' demand and their price. If the pound price is increases, the demand for pound will decrease. And if the pound price decreases, demand for pound will increase. At 3 rupees value of pound, when the pound value is 3, demand is less. When the value of pound decreases, demand will increase. And further, if the value of pound falls from 3 to 2 and 2 to 1, then demand will increase. That's why demand curve is downward sloping curve, which shows inverse relationship between the value of pound and the demand for pound. But the supply curve is always upward sloping curve, which shows direct and positive relationship between supply and the value of pound. If the value of pound increases, supply of pound increases. If the value of pound decreases, supply of pound also decreases. That's why supply curve is always upward sloping curve. Where both curve intersect each other, equilibrium point is determined. Here equilibrium point is E. At this equilibrium point, the value of pound is determined 2 and the quantity of pound is determined 1. So this is the flexible exchange rate system which is determined through the forces of demand and supply of foreign currencies. Next is there will be disequilibrium also exists in this floating exchange rate system. Excess supply or excess demand can exist. First of all, we will draw demand curve, which is always downward sloping curve, and supply curve, which is always upward sloping curve, where both curve intersect each other. Equilibrium exchange rate is determined. At this equilibrium exchange rate, P exchange rate is the actual or initial exchange rate, and the quantity of exchange rate is foreign exchanges M. So this equilibrium point shows that flexible exchange rate is determined with the forces of demand and supply of foreign currency. But if foreign exchange rate increases from P to P1, what will happen? If exchange rate increases, then supply will increase because supply is positively related with exchange rate. Higher exchange rate, higher will be the supply. Lower exchange rate, lower will be the supply. But demand is inversely related with exchange rate. At higher exchange rate, demand will be lower. And at lower exchange rate, demand will be higher. So at P1 exchange rate, demand will be lower and it is showing point with the help of point A. At higher exchange rate, demand is only at A point, but supply is more at point B. So here the situation of excess supply exists. And on the other hand, if exchange rate falls from P to P2, then in this situation, when exchange rate falls, demand will rise and supply will fall. In this case, excess demand situation will exist. Supply will fall and it will reach at point C, but demand will increase at lower exchange rate at point D. So this gap between C to D is called excess demand. So if exchange rate move from equilibrium exchange rate point, then it may be the situation of excess supply or it may be the situation of excess demand exist in the economy. So excess demand or excess supply situation can prevail or exist in the economy while if there is any change occur in exchange rate system. Next is changes in the equilibrium exchange rate. Equilibrium exchange rate can also change. It depends upon demand and supply, so it can't remain always fixed because fixed exchange rate system remains always fixed because it was fixed by the government and it can't change by any other person. But floating exchange rate system or flexible exchange rate system is fixed or determined by the help of demand and supply curve or forces of demand and supply curve of foreign currencies. So this can be changed because you know that economy is dynamic, whole world is dynamic. Anything is not called static. Nothing is static in this world. Everything is changeable or changing from time to time. So exchange rate can also change. It depends upon demand and supply curve. If there will be a change in supply of foreign currency, then exchange rate will fall and the quantity of exchange will increase. And if there is a decrease in exchange rate, there is a decrease in supply of exchange, foreign currency supply, then supply curve will shift to the left hand side. And in this case, when supply falls, demand remains constant, then exchange rate will rise and quantity of foreign currency will fall. So in this case, first of all, we have drawn this demand curve, downward sloping curve. Supply curve is upward sloping curve, where both curve intersect each other. Equilibrium exchange rate is determined. If supply curve shifts to the rightward or right hand side, then this curve will shift to the right hand side. S dash is the new supply curve, or which is showing increase in supply of foreign currency. In this case, foreign exchange rate will decrease or currency value will depreciate and the quantity of foreign exchange will rise. So demand for dollars by people who have pesos or demand is the demand for dollars, supply curve shows supply of dollars and exchange rate is determined by the intersection of demand and supply curve of foreign currency and it can change. Either it may be change in supply of foreign exchange or demand in foreign currency. If there will be a change in demand, then demand curve will shift to the right hand side. Increase in demand will move the demand curve to the rightward and decrease in demand will move the demand curve to the leftward. If demand increases, exchange rate will rise. If demand falls, exchange rate will fall. If supply increases, exchange rate falls. If supply decreases, exchange rate rises. It means there is any possibility of change in exchange rate can be happen or possible. Next is exchange rate system. As we have discussed about the flexible exchange rate system are basically of two types, clean or free float system or dirty or managed float system. So clean float system, exchange rate, as you know that floating exchange rate is determined by the forces of demand and supply curve where no government intervention is necessary. or no government intervention is included. As economic parameters changes, market participants adjust their current and expected future currency needs. Shifts in currency needs in turn shift in currency supply and demand schedule. As you know that demand curve can change, supply curve can shift. So if there is any change occur in demand and supply, then exchange rate can also change or varies. If there is no government intervention, that system or that floating exchange rate system is called free system or clean system. And dirty float system is called that system in which government intervene or government control or interfere in the economic activities. If central bank intervene to reduce economic volatility. So these three categories of intervention is smoothing out daily fluctuations, second is leaning against the wind, and third is unofficial pegging. So central bank or government can intervene from these three types of the stages or categories. First is smoothing out daily fluctuations. Central bank buys or sells currency to smooth exchange rate adjustment. Second is leaning against the wind. It measures taken to moderate or prevent short or medium term exchange rate fluctuations caused by random events. And third is unofficial pegging. A country peg is the system or limit the quantity. If you fix a particular quantity of anything, that is called peg. A country pegs, this word is taken from drunkards. You know, drunkards drink a quantity which they measure the drink is called peg. So country pegs the value of its currency to a foreign currency to protect the value of its exports. So this is the exchange rate regimes or system. It may be clean or may be dirty. Managed float exchange rate system. What is managed float exchange rate system? If government intervene and government controls the exchange rate system by intervening from these three categories, government can intervene with the help of these three systems which we have discussed earlier. In a managed or dirty float exchange rate system is that system in which exchange rates are allowed to move freely on a daily basis and no official boundaries exist. However, the government may intervene to prevent the rates from moving too much in a certain direction. So managed float exchange rate system at present, this type of exchange rate system existing in the economy because government play very important role, either it is capitalist economy or socialist economy or mixed economy. In each and every type of economy, government intervention is necessary or it's a very important for any economies to run all the economic activities smoothly. So at present, managed float exchange rate system existed in the economies. In a managed or dirty float exchange rate system in which exchange rate are allowed to move freely on a daily basis and no official boundaries exist, but government may intervene. It means government can intervene at any time to prevent the rates from moving too much in a certain direction. This is called managed float exchange rate system. Next is currency depreciation versus appreciation. What is depreciation and appreciation? And what is the difference between these two concepts? Depreciation means decreasing the value of our country's currency in terms of another country's currency. And appreciation means if we increase the value of our country's currency in terms of another country's currency, that is called appreciation. And what are the advantages of depreciation and appreciation? Advantages of depreciation is US dollar will become cheaper, reduced competition, increase foreign tourism, and capital will be more attractive, and it is very good for exporters. If you decrease the value of your country's currencies, then your product will become more cheaper. And if your product will become more cheaper, then another countries or abroad or foreign countries will demand more for their product. It means your exports will rise. When your exports will rise, capital will be more attractive, foreign tourism will increase, competition will reduce, and your product will become more cheaper. But in case of appreciation, foreign goods will become less costly, pricing competition will exist, overseas travel will become cheaper, overseas expansion will be easier, and good it is good appreciation is good for importer, but depreciation is good for exporters. And the disadvantages of depreciation is, if a country depreciate its currency, then inflation will occur. Because when we export more goods and services to the abroad, then shortage will exist in our country, and to compensate that shortage by importing the goods from abroad, in this case inflation will occur. And inflation is a situation when general price level rises continuously. At the time of depreciating the currency of any countries, then inflation will occur, foreign goods will become more costly, overseas travel will become more costly, and overseas expansion will become more tough, and amount of imports will decrease. And what are the disadvantages of appreciation of currency? If we appreciate our country's currency, then, or if USA appreciate its dollar, then USA goods will become more expensive. US firms must reduce cost, reduced foreign tourism to US, reduced foreign currency into US, and amount of exports decreases. Here the amount of import increases. Here the disadvantage of depreciation, the word amount of import decreases. Instead of this, amount of import will increase. And appreciation, in this concept, the disadvantage is amount of export decreases. That is right, but the disadvantage amount of import decreases, that is wrong. Amount of import will increase while depreciating our country's currency. Next is devaluation versus depreciation. What is devaluation? As you know that there are two types of exchange rate system. One is fixed exchange rate system, another is flexible or floating exchange rate system. So devaluation occurs when a country purposefully lowers the value of its currency as it applies to its exchange rate with currencies from other countries around the world. So if we are taking fixed exchange rate system, then the currency devaluation concept will occur. And if we are study about flexible exchange rate system, or flexible exchange rate system existed at present in our economy, then depreciation concept will be more relevant and more useful, because depreciation is the decline in a value of currency based on market factors like supply and demand. And you know that supply and demand forces always determine flexible exchange rate system. So it is clear that depreciation concept is related with floating exchange rate, and devaluation concept is related with fixed exchange rate regime. So devaluation means lowers the value of its currency as it applies to its exchange rate when currencies from other countries around the world, and depreciation is the decline in a value of currency based on market factors like demand and supply. So basic difference is Devaluation occurs when there is a system of fixed exchange rate system exist in our economy, and depreciation existed at that time when floating exchange rate system we are following. Next is we can differentiate between depreciation appreciation of a currency in terms of this different points. First of all, meaning. Depreciation means it refers to the decrease in the value of domestic currency in relation to foreign currency. Appreciation means it refers to increase in the value of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency. Causes, what are the causes of depreciation? If demand increases and supply decreases, then depreciation will occur. And appreciation causes decrease in demand. If currency value appreciated, then demand will decrease and supply will increase. And what is the effect of depreciation? It leads to increase in exports because more goods can be purchased with the same amount of currency. And what is the effect of appreciation on exports? It leads to decrease in exports because less goods can be purchased with the same amount of currency. And effects on imports are depreciation leads to decrease in imports because the domestic country needs to pay more to get the same amount of goods and services, and appreciation leads to increase in imports because the domestic country will have to pay less to get the same amount of goods and services. So this is the basic difference between depreciation and appreciation. These are different aspects from which we can distinguish between depreciation and appreciation. There are two types of exchange rate system. You know that flexible exchange rate system or fixed exchange rate system. Flexible exchange rate system is determined by the forces of demand and supply curve. It is volatile in nature. It creates uncertainty in conducting international business, and it changes in value called appreciation and depreciation. And fixed exchange rate system is that system in which exchange rate is fixed by the government and central bank buys and sells domestic currency at a fixed rate or fixed price. The gold standard was a fixed exchange rate regime. Bretton Woods was another system in which exchange rate was fixed with the help of gold standard, and it provides more certainty in the short run, but the system is susceptible to speculative attacks, changes in value called revaluation and devaluation. Next is exchange rate are two types, fixed and flexible. Both have some merits and demerits. Fixed exchange rate has merit of certainty, price stability, minimize risk, and it requires discipline in economic management. But floating exchange rate system has too much advantages in which government intervention is not needed. There is a freedom in international operation, and countries are more protected from the economic conditions of foreign countries. Disadvantages also involved in these two systems. The disadvantages of fixed exchange rate system is large holdings of foreign exchange reserves are required. Fixed rates can also be unstable, loss of freedom in terms of internal policy, and it decreases joint venture system, or it discourages producers or investors to invest or flowing their currencies in another countries. And the floating exchange rate system has also so many demerits. One is it will increase volatility or fluctuations, or it promotes currency speculation, and it will increase inflation or price level. Evaluation of a floating exchange rate, advantages and disadvantages of exchange rate. We have discussed about this, that floating exchange rate system is fixed by the forces of demand and supply curve. It automatically moves towards equilibrium, and it is always determined with the help of forces of demand and supply curve. But the disadvantages of this system is price instability or inflation, speculation, uncertainty, and involved in floating exchange rate system. Fixed exchange rate system is has so many advantages like certainty, no speculation, price stability, economic stability, but the disadvantages are government intervention is necessary and no motivation for joint venture exists in this system. There is a difference between fixed and flexible exchange rate system. Fixed exchange rate system is that system which is fixed by the government, and flexible is system that is fixed by the intervention of government, and it is fixed by the forces of demand and supply curve. That's summary. Now we can conclude that there are two types of exchange rate system, that is flexible or fixed. Flexible is determined by the forces of demand and supply, but fixed is determined by central bank. Now this topic is completed. Thank you.